Vasudevaya. Hare no. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasme Shri Gurue Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lankate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Harihi Om. 1 second. Hare Krishna, sorry dear devotees. We are continuing our reading from Sharnagati Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So this is from Atmanivedanan, song number 4. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanu Gavarayate. अहम मम सब अर्थे जहा किछु होय अर्पिलु तोमार पदे ओहे दयामय আমার আমি তো নাত না রহিনু আর এখন হনিনু আমি কেবল তোমার আমি শব্দে দেহি জীবা আহাত্মা ছাড়িল তদিয়াভিমান আজি হৃদয় পশিল আমার সর্বস দেহ গেহ অনুচার ভাই বন্ধু দ্বারা সুতা দ্রব্য দ্বারা ঘর সে সাবা হইল তাবা আমি হইনু দাস তোমার গৃহতে এবে আমি করি বাস তুমি গ্রহ স্বামী আমি সেবকা তোমার তোমার সুখেতে চেষ্টা এখন আমার স্থূল লিঙ্গ দেহা মোরা সুকৃতা দুষ্কৃতা আর মোরা নাহে প্রভু আমি তো নিষ্কৃতা তোমার ইচ্ছায়া মোরা ইচ্ছা মিশাইল ভক্তি বিনোদ আজা আপনে ভুলিও আপনে ভুলিও. Wow. Whatever I am, whatever I possess, I offer at your lotus feet, O merciful Lord. I no longer belong to myself. Now I am exclusively yours. The soul inhabiting this mortal body has given up the false ego attached to the word I, and now the eternal sense, spiritual sense of being yours has entered his heart. All my possessions, body, brother, friends, follower, wife, sons, personal belongings, house and home, all of these I give you, for now I have become your servant. Now I dwell in your house. You are the Lord of my house, and I am your most obedient servant. Your happiness is my only endeavor now. Whatever piety or sins were done by me, by my mind or deed, are no longer mine, for I am redeemed. My desire has become one with yours. From this day, Bhakti Vinod has no other identity. 1 second, someone on the gate. Hare Krishna. Forgotten it should be like this actually. Sorry, dear devotees. One second. Hare Krishna, sorry. Okay. Where were we? हाँ. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदयन्तस्तु अभद्राणि विदुनोति सुइत्सताम् ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये सवै पुंसा परो धर्मो यतो भक्तिरधोक्षजे अहेतुकी अप्रतिहता ययात्मा सुप्रसीदति वासुदेवे भगवती भक्तियोगा प्रयोजिता ज्ञानयास्तु वैराग्यं ज्ञानं च यदहेतुकम् वदन्ति तत्त्वविदस्तत्त्वं यज्ञानमद्वयं ब्रह्मेति परमात्मेति भगवान् इति शब्दे तस्मादेकेन मनसा भगवान् सात्वतं प्रति श्रोतव्य कीर्तितव्यश्च ध्येयः पूज्यश्च नित्यदा एक 1 second. Sorry, someone was here. Okay, let's read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Are we at verse 32? I just want to confirm 1 second. Hare Krishna. Hare. Okay, we are at 32. Let's just read 2 shlokas from Bhagavatatnamal. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. The first shloka. Janmadyasya yato niyaditaratas chatheshvabhignya swara tene brahma hridaya adi kavaye moyanti yat suraya tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. One more I want to recite, but Nigamagalpataro galitam phalam shukmukadamritam dravasamyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. Okay. Let's go back to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Hmm. We're reading from Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 32. Okay. Modesty is the upper portion of his of his lips. Okay. Modesty, the upper portion of his lips. Hankering is the chin. Religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world, is his genitals, and the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones. Shivapa's puppet. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not impersonal as conceived by intelligent thinkers. Rather, he is the Supreme Person as confirmed in all authentic Vedic literatures. But his personality is different from what we can conceive. It is stated here that Brahmaji acts as his genitals and the Mitra Varnas are two testicles. This means that a person is complete with all bodily organs, but they are different types with different potencies. When the Lord is described as impersonal, therefore it should be understood that his personality is not exactly the type of personality found within our imperfect speculation. One can, however, worship the Lord even by seeing the hills and mountains or the ocean and the sky as different parts and parcel of the gigantic body of the Lord, the Virat Purusha. The Virat Purusha is exhibited as Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna is a challenge to the unbelievers. Text 33. O king, the rivers are the veins of the gigantic body, the trees and the hairs of his body, and the omnipotent air is his breath. The passing ages are his movement, and his activities are the reactions of the three modes of material nature. Shape of paths, but the personality of Godhead is not dead stone, nor is inactive, as he is poorly thought by some schools. He moves with the progress of time, and therefore he knows all about the past and future, along with the present activities. There is nothing unknown to him. The conditioned souls are driven by the reactions of the modes of material nature, which are activities of the Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.12, the modes of nature act under his direction only, and as such, no material functions are blind or automatic. The power behind the activities is the supervision of the Lord, and thus Lord is never active, as is wrongly conceived. The Vedas say that the Supreme Lord has nothing to do personally, as is always the case with superiors, but everything is done by his direction. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. In Brahma Samhita 5.48, it is said that all universes and heads of them, the Brahmas, exist only for the duration of his breathing period. The same is confirmed here. The air on which the universes and the planets within the universe exist is nothing but the breath of the unchangeable Virat Purusha. So, even by studying the rivers, trees, air, and passing ages, one can conceive the personality of God without being misled by the formless conception of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is stated that those who are much inclined to the formless conception of Supreme Truth are more troubled than those who can intelligently conceive the personal form. Bhagavad Gita 12.5. Let's just read the Sanskrit. English I know, but let's just read the Sanskrit. Kleshodikastarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham devabdhiravapyate. Okay. Text 34. O best of Kurus, O best among the Kurus, the clouds which carry water are the hairs on his head. The terminations of the day or night are his dress, and the supreme cause of the material creation is his intelligence. His mind is the moon, the reservoir of all changes. Text 35. The principle of the matter, Mahat Tattva, is the consciousness of the omnipresent Lord, as assisted by experts, and Rudradev is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, elephant are his nails, and wild animals and all quadrupeds are situated in the belt zone of the Lord. Text 36. Varieties of birds are indications of his masterful aesthetic sense. Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. The celestial species of human beings, like Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, celestial species of human beings, like Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and angels, all represents his musical rhythm, and the demonic soldier are representations of his wonderful prowess. Shivpad the aesthetic sense of the Lord is manifested in the artistic, colorful creation of the varieties of birds like the peacock, parrot, and cuckoo. The celestial species of human beings like Gandharvidas can sing wonderfully and can entice even the minds of the heavenly demigods. Their musical rhythm represents the musical sense of the Lord. How then can he be impersonal? His musical taste, artistic sense, standard intelligence, which is never fallible, are different signs of his personality. The Manu Samhita is the standard law book for humanity, and every human being is advised to follow this great book of social knowledge. Human society is the residential quarters of the Lord. This means that the human being is meant for God realization and association with God. This life is a chance for conditioned soul to regain his eternal God consciousness and thus fulfill the mission of life. Maharaj Prahlad is the right type of representative of the Lord in the family of Asuras. None of the living beings is away from the Lord's gigantic body. Each and every one has a particular duty in relation to the supreme body. Disruption in the matter of discharging specific duty assigned to each and every living being is a cause of disharmony, even one disharmony between one living being and another. But when the relation is re-established in relation with the Supreme Lord, there is complete unity between all living beings, even up to the limit of wild animals and human society. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu displayed the living unity in the jungle of Madhya Pradesh, where even the tigers, elephants, and many other ferocious animals perfectly cooperated in glorifying the Supreme Lord. That is the way of peace and amenity all over the world. The Virat Purusha face is the Virat Purusha's face is the Brahmanas. His arms are the Kshatriyas, his thighs are the Vaishyas, and the Shudras and are under the protection of his feet. All the worshipable demigods are also overtaken by him, and it is the duty of everyone to perform sacrifices with feasible gods to appease the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's Papat. Monotheism is practically suggested here. Offering sacrifices to many demigods under different names is mentioned in the Vedic literatures, but the suggestion made in this verse is that all those varieties of demigods are included in the form of Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are only the parts and parcels of the original whole. Similarly, the divisions of the orders of human society, namely the Brahmanas, the intelligent class, the Kshatriyas, the administrators, the Vaishyas, the mercantile community, and the Shudras, the labor class, are all included in the body of the Supreme. As such, sacrifice by every one of them in terms of pleasing the Supreme by feasible goods is recommended. Generally, the sacrifice is offered with clarified butter and grains, but with the progress of time, human society has produced varieties of goods by transforming materials supplied by God's material nature. Human society therefore must learn to offer sacrifices not only with clarified butter, but also with other manufactured good in the propagation of Lord's glory, and that will bring about perfection in human society. I want to understand this a little more. What does Shri means here? Just make it red. Yeah. The entire class of men or Brahmanas may give directions for such sacrifices in consultation with the previous acharyas. The administrators may give all facility to perform such sacrifices. The Vaishya class or mercantile community who produce such goods may offer them for sacrifice, and the Shudra class may offer their manual labor for the successful termination of the sacrifice. Thus, by the cooperation of all classes of human beings, the sacrifice recommended in this age, namely the sacrifice of congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord, may be executed for common welfare of all the people of the world. Text 38. I have thus explained to you the gross material gigantic conception of the personality of Godhead. One who seriously desires liberation concentrates his mind on this form of the Lord. because there is nothing more than this in the material world. Srila Prabhupada's word in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has really explained that the material form, material nature is only an order carrying agent of his. Let's just see the Sanskrit really fast. मया दक्षेण प्रकृति सूयते सचराचरं हेतुनानेनु कौन्तेया जगद्विपरिवर्तते. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, son of Kamti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and enlightened again and again. She is one of the different potencies of the Lord, and she acts under his direction only. As the Supreme Transcendental Lord, he simply casts a glance over the material principle, and thus the agitation of matter begins, and the resultant actions are manifested one after another by 6 kinds of gradual differentiations. All material creation is moving in that way, and thus it appears and disappears in due course. Less intelligent people with poor fund of knowledge cannot accommodate the thought of his inconceivable potency of the Lord Shri Krishna, by which he appears just like human beings. Bhagavad Gita 9.11. Let's read this very fast. Govindam Vanisha. Oh Krishna, what does it need? Avjnanti mamura manusham tanumashritam param bhavam ajanato mambhuta maheshwaram. His appearance in this material world as one of us is also his causeless mercy upon the fallen souls. He is transcendental to all material conception, but by his unbounded mercy upon his pure devotees, he comes down and manifests himself as the personality of Godhead. Materialistic philosophers and scientists are too much engrossed with atomic energy and the gigantic situation of the universal form, and they offer respect more seriously to the external phenomenal feature of the material manifestation than to the nominal principle of the spiritual existence. The transcendental form of the Lord is beyond the jurisdiction of such materialistic activities, and it is very difficult to conceive that the Lord can be simultaneously localized and all pervasive, because the materialistic philosophers and scientists think of everything in terms of their own experience. Because they are unable to accept the personal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Lord is kind enough to demonstrate the Virat feature of his transcendental form, and herein Srila Shukdev Goswami has vividly described this form of the Lord. He concludes that there is nothing beyond the gigantic feature of the Lord. None of the materialistic thoughtful men can go beyond this conception of the gigantic form. The minds of the materialistic men are flickering and constantly changing from one aspect to another. Therefore, one is advised to think of the Lord by thinking of any part of his gigantic body, and by one's intelligence only one can think of him in any manifestation of the material world. The forest, the hill, the ocean, the man, the animal, the demigod, the bird, the beast, or anything else. Each and every item of the material manifestation entails a part of the body of the gigantic form, and thus the flickering mind can be fixed in the Lord only and nothing else. The process of concentrating on the different bodily parts of the Lord will gradually diminish the demoniac challenges of godlessness and bring about gradual development of devotional service to the Lord. Everything being a part and parcel of the complete whole, the neophyte student will gradually realize the hymns of the Ishopanishad, which state that the Supreme Lord is everywhere, and thus he will learn the art of not committing any offenses to the body of the Lord. Wow, I really like this. He will not commit offenses to the body of the Lord. Important. Actually, offenses. Yes. The sense of God-mindedness will diminish one's pride in challenging the existence of the God. Thus, one can learn to show respect to everything, for all things are parts and parcel of the Supreme Body. Text 39. One should concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who alone distributes himself in so many manifestations, just as ordinary persons create thousands of manifestations in dreams. One must concentrate the mind on him, the only all blissful absolute truth. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In this verse, the process of devotional service is indicated by the great Goswami Srila Shukdev. He tries to impress upon us that instead of diverting our attention to the several branches of the self-realization, we should concentrate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a supreme object of realization, worship and devotion. Self-realization, it as it were, offering a fight for eternal life against the material struggle for existence, and therefore by the illusory grace of the external energy, the yogi or the devotee is faced with many allurements which can entangle a great fighter again in the bondage of material existence. A yogi can attain miraculous success in material achievements such as anima and laghima, by which one can become more minute than the minutest or lighter than the lightest, or in ordinary sense one may be able to achieve material benediction in the shape of wealth and woman. But one is warned against such allurements, because entanglement again in such illusory pleasures with degradation of self and further imprisonment in the material world. By this warning, one should follow one's vigilant intelligence only. The Supreme Lord is one, and his Supreme Lord is one, and his expansions are various. He is therefore the super soul of everyone. When a man sees anything, he must know that his seeing is secondary and the Lord seeing is primary. Okay. One cannot see anything without the Lord's having first seen it. That is the instruction of the Vedas and the Upanishads. So whatever we see or do, the super soul of all acts of seeing or doing is the Lord. The theory of simultaneousness, oneness and difference between the individual soul and the super soul is propounded by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the philosophy of Achintya Abheda Bheda Tattva. The Virat Rupa, or the gigantic feature of the Supreme Lord, includes everything materially manifested, and therefore the Virat or gigantic feature of the Lord is a super soul of all living and non-living entities. But the Virat Rupa is also the manifestation of Narayana or Vishnu, and going further on and on will eventually see that Lord Krishna is the ultimate super soul of everything that be. The conclusion is that one should unhastingly become a worshipper of Lord Sri Krishna, or for that matter his plenary expansion Narayana, and none else. In the Vedic hymns, it is clearly said that first of all Narayana cast a glance over matter, and thus there was creation. Before creation there was neither Brahma or Shiva. And what to speak of others? Sripad Shankaracharya has definitely accepted this, that Narayana is beyond the material creation and that all others are within the material creation. The whole material creation therefore is one with and different from Narayana simultaneously, and this supports the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Being an emanation from the glancing potency of Narayana, the whole material creation is non-different from him. But because it is the effect of the external energy Bahiranga Maya and is aloof from the internal potency Atma Maya, the whole material creation is different from him at the same time. The example given in this verse very nicely is that of a dreaming man. The dreaming man creates many things in his dream, and thus he himself becomes entangled seer of the dream and is also affected by the consequences. The material creation is also exactly like a dreamlike creation of the Lord, but he, being the transcendental super soul, is neither entangled nor affected by the reactions of such dreamlike creation. He is always in his transcendental position, but essentially he is everything and nothing is apart from him. A part of him, one should therefore concentrate his mind on him. As a part of him, one should therefore concentrate on him only without deviation. Otherwise, one is sure to overcome the potencies of the material creation one after another. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.7. सर्वभूतानि कौन्तेय प्रकृतिं यान्ति मामकं कल्पक्षये पुनस्तानि कल्पादो विसृजाम्यहम्. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. The human life, however, is an opportunity to get out of the repetition of creation and annihilation. It is a means whereby one may escape the Lord's external potency and enter into the internal potency. So, what is this verse? This is 39. Okay. So, thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the second canto, first chapter in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, titled The First Step in God Realization. Let's go to chapter 2. Let's focus it once again. What happened to this mess? I have to rearrange everything. Focus this chapter. Okay. Need to read 12 more verses. Okay, we'll try. Reading from Canto 2, Chapter 2. Srila Shukdev Goswami said, formerly prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virat Rupa, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus, he is able to rebuild the creation as it was before. Srila Prabhupada's purport. As example cited herein of Sri Brahmaji is one of forgetfulness. Brahmaji is the incarnation of one of the mundane attributes of the Lord. Being the incarnation of the passion mode of the material nature, he is empowered by the Lord to generate the beautiful material manifestation. Yet, due to his being one of the numerous living entities, okay, lost it. Numerous living entities, he is apt to forget the art of creative energy. The forgetfulness of a living being, beginning from Brahma down to the lowest insignificant end, is a tendency which can be counteracted by meditation on the Virat Rupa of the Lord. The chance is available in the human form of life, and if a human being follows the instruction of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and begins to meditate upon the Virat Rupa, the revival of his pure consciousness and the counteraction of the tendency to forget his internal relationship with the Lord can follow simultaneously. As soon as this forgetfulness is removed, the Vyavasayasa Buddhi. I know Vyavasayatmika Buddhi is there in Bhagavad Gita as mentioned here and in the Bhagavad Gita 2.41. Yes. Vyavasayasya Buddhi. Hare Krishna. Vyavasayasya Buddhi. The certain knowledge of living beings lead to the loving service to the Lord, which the living being requires. Let's just read the Sanskrit ones very fast. Vyavasatmika buddhireke he kurunandana bahushaka hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Vyavasatmika buddhi eke he kurunandana. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of Kurus, the intelligence of those who are resolute is many branched. The certain knowledge of the living beings lead to the loving service to the Lord, which the living being requires. The kingdom of God is unlimited. Therefore, the number of assisting hands of the Lord is also unlimited. The Bhagavad Gita 13.14. Sarvata panipadam tat sarvato akshi siromukam sarvata srutimal loke sarvam avartya tishtati. Says everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. Asserts the Lord has his hands, legs, eyes, mouths, and every nook and corner of the creation. This means the expansion of the different shaded parts and parcels called jivas or living entities are assisting hands of the Lord, and all of them are meant for rendering a particular pattern to of service to the Lord. The conditioned soul, even in the position of a Brahma, forgets by by the influence of the illusory material energy generated out by false egoism. One can counteract such false egoism by invoking God consciousness. Liberation means getting out of the slumber of forgetfulness and becoming situated in the real loving service of the Lord. As exemplified in the case of Brahma, the service of Brahma is the sample of service in liberation, distinguished from the so-called altruistic services full of mistakes and forgetfulness. Liberation is never inaction. Liberation is never inaction, but service without human mistakes. First time I'm reading something like this. Liberation, no. Devotional service. Text 2. The way of presentation of the Vedic sound is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like the heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned souls, however, in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places. Srila Prabhupada's purport: the conditioned soul is always engaged in laying out plans for happiness within the material world, even up to the end of the universal limit. He is not even satisfied with available amenities on the planet Earth, where he has exploited the resources of the material, where he has exploited the resources of the nature to the best of his ability. He wants to go to the moon and the planet Venus and exploit resources there. But the Lord has warned us in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, which says, Abrahmana Abrahma bhavana loka punar avartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punar janma na vidyate. About the worthlessness of all the innumerable planets of the universe, as well as those planets within our system. There are innumerable universes and also innumerable planets in each of them, but none of them is immune to the chief miseries of the material existence, namely the pangs of birth, the pangs of death, the pangs of old age, and the pangs of disease. The Lord says that even the topmost planet known as Brahmaloka or Satyaloka, and what to speak of other planets like the heavenly planets, is not a happy land for residential purposes due to the presence of material planks as mentioned above. Conditioned souls. Sorry, I'm just chewing a throat medicine. Conditioned souls are strictly under the laws of fruitive activities, and as such they sometimes go up to Brahmaloka and again come down to Patal Loka as if they were unintelligent children on a merry-go-round. The real happiness is in the kingdom of God, where no one has to undergo the pangs of material existence. Therefore, the Vedic ways of fruitive activities for living entities are misleading. One thinks of a superior way of life in this country or that, or on this planet or another, but nowhere is the material world can we fulfill his real desire of life, namely eternal life, full intelligence and complete bliss. Indirectly, Srila Shukdev Goswami affirms that Maharaj Parikshit in the last stage of life should not desire to transfer himself to so-called heavenly planets, but should prepare himself for going back home, back to Godhead. None of the material planets nor the amenities available there for living condition is everlasting. Therefore, one must have a factual reluctance to enjoy such temporary happiness as they afford. Text 3. For the reason of enlightened person should endeavor only for minimum necessities of life while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. The Bhagavad Dharma or the cult of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is perfectly distinct from the way of fruitive activities which are considered by the devotees to be merely a waste of time. The whole universe, or for the matter, all material existence is moving as Jagat simply for planning business to make one's position very comfortable or secure. Although everyone sees that this existence is neither comfortable nor secure and can never become comfortable or secure at any stage of development, those who are captivated by the illusory advancement of the material civilization, following the way of phantasmagoria, are certainly madmen. I always forget what this means. Shifting sequence of real okay, imagined dream or something like that. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but a bewildering creation of matter like earth, water, fire. The buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, or even the highest perfection of the material science, namely atomic energy and electronics, are simply bewildering names of material elements with their concomitant reactions of the three modes. Since the devotee of the Lord knows them perfectly well, he is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significance than the babble of the sea waves. The great kings, leaders, soldiers fight with one another in order to perpetuate their names in history. They are forgotten in due course of time, and they make a place for another era in history. But the devotees realize how much history and historical persons are useless products of flickering time. The fruitive workers aspire after big fortune in the matter of wealth, women, and worldly adoration. But those who are fixed in a perfect reality are not at all interested in such false things. For them, it is all a waste of time. Since every second of human life is important, an enlightened man should be very careful to utilize time very cautiously. 1 second of human life wasted in the vain research of planning for happiness in the material world can never be replaced, even if one spends millions of coins of gold. Therefore, the transcendent desiring freedom from the clutches of Maya or the illusory activities of life is warned herewith not to be captivated by the external features of the fruitive actors. Human life is never meant for sense gratification but for self realization. Once again. Yes. Human life is never meant for sense gratification but for self realization. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam instructs us solely on the subject from the very beginning to the end. Human life is simply meant for self realization. The civilization which aims at the utmost perfection never indulges in creating unwanted things, and such perfect civilization prepares man only to accept the bare necessities of life or to follow the principle of the best use of a bad bargain. Our material bodies and our lives in that connection are bad bargains, because the living entity is actually spirit, and spiritual advancement of the living entity is absolute necessary. Human life is intended for the realization of the important factor, and one should act accordingly, accepting one only the bare necessities of life and depending more on God's gift, without diversion of human energy for any other purposes, such as being mad for material enjoyment. The materialistic advancement of the civilization is called the civilization of the demons, which ultimately ends in wars and scarcity. The transcendentalist is specifically warned herewith to be fixed in mind, so that even if there is difficulty in plain living and high thinking, he will not budge even an inch from his stark determination. For a transcendentalist, it is suicidal policy to be immediately in touch with the sense gratifiers of the world, because such a potent policy will frustrate the ultimate gain of life. Okay, so this is association and life and association. Yes. Sense gratifiers of the world. It is suicidal policy to be intimately in touch with the sense gratifiers of the world, because such policy will frustrate the ultimate gain of life. Srila Shukdev Goswami met Maharaj Parikshit. For the latter felt a necessity for such a meeting. It is a duty of the transcendentalist to help persons who desire real salvation and to support the cause of salvation. One might note that Shukdev Goswami never met Maharaj Parikshit while he was ruling as a great king. For a transcendentalist, the mode of activities is explained in the next shloka. Text 4. I love this shloka. Makes us so grounded. Srila Gurudev also says that before, like sometime, that it's not the highest what we are aiming for day and night, what we are doing day and night. It's not the highest. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of the pillow? When one can use the palms of his hand, what is the necessity of variety of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of the trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Srila Prabhupada's purport. The necessities of life for the protection of the comfort of the body must not be unnecessarily increased. Human energy is spoiled in a vain search after such illusory happiness. If one is able to lie down on the floor, then why should one endeavor to get a good bedstead or soft cushion to lie on? If one can reset without any pillow and make use of the soft arms endowed by nature, there is no necessity for searching after a pillow. If we make a study of the general life of the animals, we can see that they have no intelligence for building big houses, furniture and household paraphernalia, and yet they maintain a very healthy life by lying down on the open land. They do not know how to cook or prepare foodstuff, yet they still live healthy lives more easily than the human being. This does not mean that the human civilization should revert to animal life, or the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education or sense of morality. Any intelligent human cannot live a life of an animal. Rather, man should try to utilize his intelligence in art and science, poetry and philosophy. In such a way, he can further the progressive march of the human civilization. But here, the idea given by Srila Shukdev Goswami is that reserve energy of human life, which is far superior to that of the animals, should simply be utilized for self-realization. Advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing a lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than the human being. One must realize the nullity of material phenomena, considering it to a passing phantasmagoria, and must endeavor to make a solution of the miseries of life. Self-compliance with a polished type of animal civilization geared to sense gratification is delusion, and such a civilization is not worthy of the name. In pursuit of such false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya or illusion. Great sages and saints in the days of yore were not living in palatial buildings furnished with good furniture and so-called amenities. Yore, I think, is old days or something like that. Time long past, yes. Yore. They used to live in huts and groves and sit on the flat grounds, and yet they have left immense treasure of high knowledge with all perfection. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami were high-ranking ministers of state, but they were able to leave behind the immense Hare Krishna. They were able to leave behind the immense writings on transcendental knowledge while residing only for 1 night underneath one tree. They did not live even 2 nights under the same tree, and what to speak of well furnished rooms and modern amenities, and still they were able to give us most important literatures of self realization. So called comforts of life are not actually helpful for progressive civilization, rather they are determin- detrimental 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 to such progressive life. I want to see the definition. Mm, causing harm or damage or negatively impact. So-called comforts of life are not actually helpful for progressive civilization, rather they are detrimental to such progressive life. Very important. In the systems of Sanatan Dharma of 4 divisions of social life and 4 orders of progressive civilization. Hare Krishna. There are ample opportunities and sufficient directions for a happy termination of the progressive life, and the sincere follower advised herein therein to accept a voluntary life of renunciation in order to achieve the desired goal of life. If one is not accustomed to by the life of renunciation and self abnegation from the beginning, one should try to get into a habit at a later stage of life. Okay, as recommended by Srila Shukdev Goswami, and that will help one achieve the desired success. Text 5. Are there no torn clothes lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered soul? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard earned wealth? Srila Prabhupada's purport. The renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. According to the dictionary, a parasite is a sycophant who lives at the cost of the society without making any contribution to that society. The renounced order is meant for contributing something substantial to the society and not depending on the earning of the householders. 1 second. Krishna. On the contrary, the acceptance of alms from the householders by a bona fide mendicant is an opportunity afforded by the saint for a tangible benefit of the donor. In the Sanatan Dharma institution, alms giving to the mendicant is a part of householders' duty, and it is advised in the scripture that the householder should treat the mendicants as their family children and should provide them with food, clothing, etc. without being asked. Pseudo mendicants therefore should not take advantage of the charitable disposition of the faithful householders. The first duty of the person in the renounced order of life is to contribute some literary work for the benefit of the human being in order to give realized direction towards self-realization. Wow, such amazing instruction Srila Prabhupada is giving. If someone is in renounced order, to contribute some literary work for the benefit of the human being. Among the other duties in the renounced order of life of Srila Sanatan, Srila Rupa and other Goswamis of Vrindavan. The foremost duty discharged by them was to hold learned discourses amongst themselves at Seva Kunj Vrindavan, the spot where Sri Radha Damodar temple was established by Srila Jeev Goswami and where the actual Samadhi tombs of Srila Rupa Goswami and Jeev Goswami are laid. For the benefit of all in human being, they left behind them immense literatures and transcendental importance. Similarly, all the acharyas who voluntarily accepted the renounced order of life aimed at benefiting human society and not at all living a comfortable or irresponsible life at the cost of others. However, those who cannot give any contribution should not go to the householder for food. For such mendicants, asking for bread from the householder are an insult to the highest order. Srila Shukdev Goswami gave this warning especially to those mendicants who adopt the line of profession to solve their economic problems. Such mendicants are in abundance in the age of Kali. When the man becomes a mendicant willfully or by the circumstance, he must be of firm faith and conviction that Supreme Lord is the maintainer of all living beings everywhere in the universe. Why then would he neglect the maintenance of surrendered souls who is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord? Our common master looks to the necessities of his life. So how much more would the all-powerful, all-opulent Supreme Lord look after the necessities of life for a fully surrendered soul? The general rule is that a mendicant devotee will accept a simple small loincloth without asking anyone to give it in charity. He simply salvages it from the rejected cloth torn in the street. When he is hungry, he may go to a magnanimous tree which drops fruits, and then he is thirsty, he may drink water from flowing rivers. He does not require to live a comfortable house, but should find a cave in the hills and not be afraid of jungle animals, keeping faith in God who lives in everyone's heart. The Lord may dictate to tigers and other jungle animals not to disturb his devotee. Srila Haridas Thakur, a great devotee of the Lord, used to live in such a cave, and by chance a great venomous snake was co-partner of the cave. Co-partner of the cave. Co-partner of the cave. Some admirer of Thakur Haridas who had to visit Thakur every day feared the snake and suggested that Thakur leave the place because his devotees are afraid of the snake and they were regularly visiting the cave. Thakur Haridas agreed to the proposal on their account, but as soon as this was settled, the snake actually crawled out of his hole in cave before everyone present and left the cave for good. By the dictation of the Lord, who lived also within the heart of the snake gave preference to Haridas and decided to leave the place and not to disturb him. So this is a tangible example of how Lord gives protection to his bona fide devotees like Srila Haridas Thakur. According to the regulations of Sanatana Dharma institution, one is trained from the beginning to depend fully on the protection of the Lord in all circumstances. The path of renunciation is recommended for the acceptance by one who is fully accomplished and fully purified in his existence. The stage is described also in the Bhagavad Gita 16.5. Devi Sampat. This is Devi Sampat. This is spiritual asset, I think. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada translates that. Devi Sampad Vimokshasya Nibandhaya Śrīmata Masucha Sampadam Devim Abhijatosi Pandava. The transcendental qualities are conductive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu. You are born with the divine qualities. A human being required to accumulate Devi Sampat or spiritual assets. Yes, Prabhupada translated here as spiritual asset. The next alternative, Asuri Sampat or material asset, will overcome him disproportionately, and thus one will be forced into the entanglement of different miseries of the material world. A sannyasi should always live alone without company, and he must be fearless. He should never be afraid of living alone. Although he is never alone, the Lord is residing in everyone's heart, and unless one is purified by the prescribed process, one will feel that he is alone. But a man in the renounced order of life must be purified by the process. Thus he will feel the presence of the Lord everywhere and have nothing to fear. Such a being without any company, everyone can become a fearless and honest person in his very existence, is purified by discharging the prescribed duty of each and every order of life. One can become fixed in one's prescribed duty by faithful oral reception of Vedic instruction and assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotional service to the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। परम पूज्य शिला वशिष्ठ महाराज गुरुदेव की जय। निताई गौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। निताई गौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Thank you, dear devotees. See you tomorrow.